Watch new players' first playthrough of Elden Ring. They're using Bloodhound's Fang and White Mask. I have nothing but contempt for people that look up optimal builds before they even know what the fuck is going on. Is this really what you're thinking about in your life? I used Bloodhound's Fang because it's cool. /v/ says I didn't beat the game because I didn't spend hours researching the meta to avoid it. Actually used this for my first playthrough spamming power stance jump attacks. Switched to greatsword halfway through. Simpler times when I didn't care about buffs. Everyone should suffer exactly the same way as the suffering I've chosen to make myself suffer. Are you above the age of 5? Have you recognized that there are other people who might not play the game the same way as you? There's no other way to play these games. Only make a clear plan of progression and do not get distracted. Ideally, open a video walkthrough on the second monitor and follow it step by step. VHF is understandable because it's a strong, cool-looking weapon you can easily find in the first couple hours. White Mask definitely means they're following a cringe bleed build guide. Bloodhound's Fang I just started recently and didn't look up shit. I'm just surprised to see a weapon I actually do use given there's a fuck ton of them in this game. There are some more fun chunky weapons I have but they require 30 strength as much as I want to rush that. My health is sorely lacking for my basic ass DS fat trolling playstyle. Don't know for White Mask but Bloodhound's Fang is acquired super early and it's by far the best weapon you can get at this stage of the game. Solid damage, bleed, strong ash of war. You don't need to look up a guide for that. I used it on my first playthrough and so did most of my friends. If they're using it without White Mask nor spamming jump attacks they're not a guide fag at all though. Yet and those people are faggots. I'm playing the game for the first time and the only guide I looked up was Ronnie's Quest. I'm 35 plus hours in after 6 days and have been using the Bloodhound Fang the entire time after beating the Bloodhound in the ear goal or whatever the fuck those holes surrounded by worms are called. And now I have it fully leveled except for a somber dragon stone or whatever the fuck. Is this some sort of OP weapon that fags on here are gonna tell me I didn't beat the game because I used it? I just got to Lenal and shit's been a breeze since like level 70. I'm at 100 now and most enemies are one shot and bosses are piss easy STR and dex build. Bloodhound Fang is cringe for early game but based for late game, because if you are following a guide you'll switch to Rivers of Blood by then. It's a drop in lime grav. You don't have to look up shit. Ignoring the White Mask that you have to go out of your way into a semi-secret late game area to find. It'd why anyone would follow a guide for anything other than getting to the next part of a quest. How is it fun to look up what the best build is? If anything, I feel justified in having found out how good this weapon is on my own without looking it up. Yet I did. I assumed you could kill bear, but looking it up I guess not. How would you even know about these hack streams, or care? This board harbors some weird fucks. See you tomorrow, Ranjit. Elden Ring is built around reading guides and watching how to beat Morgott in Elden Ring build. What are you expecting? Start up Elden Ring for the first time, pick Reg class. Yap, it's gammon time. Why don't you go watch some whore play a game instead of playing it yourself? Fetus. Yet a normie at work started Souls and they're asking a lot of advice. They were really bad. I just said, maybe get and use Bloodhounds while you figure out a build direction based on their stats. They beat the base game the other day using it. At least they, supposedly, didn't use summons. I know nothing about what's meta and what isn't. I'm just using Bloodhound Fang cause it's the first ever jail drop. You get 15 minutes into the game and it's a good weapon. Watch new players' first playthrough of Dark Souls. They're using Grave Lord Sword and Mask of the Father. I have nothing but contempt for people that look up optimal builds before they even know what the fuck is going on. This weapon is total dog shit. Don't understand why people love it so much. They both pull numbers each time to rank on the sidebar. If you've even looked at the landing page you'd inevitably see them. Check also basically always wears form-fitting and no bra. Pretty based. Not sure what that creatura below her is. Poor hack. Anything you want to share with the class. Post the very first weapon you settled for. Tattoos disgusting. What the fuck you're even talking about? A streaming site? Anyone who watches someone else play video games instead of just playing it themselves makes zero sense to me. Uh-oh, triggered the Bloodhound Noobs KEK. I think you missed the part where you posted actual porn stars, aka whores. Are you retarded? Or probably just a tranny who thinks sex work is real work. Kek. Destroy yourself, bot. Misses the point of the thread, misses the point of Bloodhound Noobs equated to porn stars. Good morning, Sanjay. Just stop watching mutants. Use weapon because it looks cool. Get criticized for using a meta weep on. The criticizing faggot basically confesses to have already searched the meta while I simply follow my superior gamer instincts. I keep winning, you keep whining. Get made fun of for posting porn stars streaming. Uh-oh, triggered. I can't fathom what it's like to spend a day in the mind of someone like this. You're not only a brain dead coomer, but a Twitch fag too. Ha 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 ha. Game is a chore to play. People look up guides. Whoa. Open TikTok, live and go to Elden Ring section. Literally the first 3 in a row are all using it. YouTube, Twitch. Oh, Twitch poggers exposed himself. KEK. The point is that you're pathetic for even knowing that these streams exist, but all that fat must have went to your brain. Bro, don't expose the Bloodhound normies like this. They're seething. Look guys, he doesn't even know the correct streaming site. LMAO, I think I'm too old for this bores. Anyone who watches someone else play video games instead of just playing it themselves makes zero sense to me. You can't always play vidya. Watching others play vidya doesn't inherently mean you don't play vidya, and watching a stream is literally no different than watching anything else. Time to grow up, Anon. You're pathetic. Please redeem me. English, Paddle Jeet. I don't know what White Mask is, but I came across Bloodhound Fang in my first playthrough, blind, and could not find anything realistically better. That weapon drops in a location that is clearly marked on the map, right next to the beginning of the game. Bottom guy fighting Malenia using Mimic Tier, Bloodhound's Fang, and +8 flask cursed image. They didn't wander around aimlessly with a dog shit build getting shit on like a retard like I did. They didn't actually beat the game. Nobody cares and nobody has the time. Faggot. Elden Ring is easy like every RPG ever made. Please redeem a treadmill. Fetus. This bores. You're pathetic. The Carlos and Kumar aren't even trying anymore. Bloodhound's Fang, it's a cool weapon. Disa White Mask, soulless nigger faggot tier. Whores clearing the game with Bloodhound. Actual video game / gamer streamers largely resorted to tank mode and / or blood limb intradasting. Not all of us are retards like you Anon. Some of us know how to make decent builds. I personally ran a cold +25 side for most of the game. Burger is nutritional and filling unlike cow dung. Ranch. I'm sorry for you. Don't miss the train. Calling out spelling mistakes on 4CHA, and that's about as hilarious as admitting to watching streamers. Post screenshot of Malenia achievement. Cheats are as disgusting as fat people. You're one and the same. A YouTube video streamer's spelling isn't the only disability you have. You're one and the same. Don't say that about yourself, Sanjeet. Self-hating Indian seeds that white porn star pays them no attention for shilling their channel. Kek, why are Jeets such simps? You can tell the soulless cattle from the genuine chads based on whether they're using white mask or silver tier mask with their bleed build. Find cool boss early game like this weapon. Wow, bleed is strong for this tough game. I'm gonna use this. Get mask. Wait, this mask makes things stronger when I bleed things. Use it until I got the moonlight greatsword and swapped my build. While it's possible they looked it up, that was my experience on the first month of the game being out. On my blind playthrough, I got the Moog key item to bring me there and everything. The only thing I did look up that I remember was where to find the baleful shadows in Ronnie's quest. I missed every other quest line. Some people played BHF because it's the meta. I played BHF because I went in the wrong direction at the start to see what's out there. Fought this guy level 1 with a bandit's knife and this was the reward for my labors. Also I power stanced it with a dismounter because why not? Self-hating cheat many such cases. Bloodhound noob is real mad he got exposed for using the same weapon as TikTok zooms and porn stars. Holy kek. I can't read this without the green arrows. He doesn't know the difference between my streaming websites. Kekzoomer can't fathom that someone doesn't share his faggot ass hobby that is watching streamers online. Before it's stated, I'm on mobile so I apologize for the shit grammar. I didn't notice so many mistakes. You fucked up, bro. You may as well restart right now because the way you are going means you won't beat the game. I think it's more so just making fun of you for acting like anyone cares about porn stars playing games. It's more embarrassing for you to pretend like you don't have some level of osmotic knowledge of gaming media while posting on a gaming forum. Disu. Nobody believes that you don't know what Twitch is. I had it all properly spaced out in my app since I'm a filthy mobile user nowadays, but nothing went to the right spot and my grammar was fucked. I think it's embarrassing for you to assume that people on 4CHA and give a shit about streamers or their sites. Go back, you fat tool. I've no-hit every boss including DLCS with dual blood bandit swords. Elden Ring is a joke. Elden Ring is entirely build faggotry with zero skill. Skill is reduced to rolling, which is basically a minigame that lets you avoid taking damage. You pick reg. You use game knowledge to start your build. Once your build comes together you start fighting stuff. Everything dies easily. The combat is the equivalent of the training dummy in some MMOs or ARPGs that just shows you how strong your build is. Game is almost entirely gear checks, based around ending the fight before the AI spazzes out. Elden Ring enemy AI has two modes, walking while doing nothing, and infinite combo. You want to deal your last hit while the AI is doing totally nothing, and not while it is rubber banding itself into oblivion. These are the specs you need to worry about. Greater than 1000 HP, every mob in the game. Greater than 2000 HP, early bosses. Greater than 8000 HP, NPCs and environmental bosses. Greater than 20,000 HP, lore bosses. Greater than 60,000 HP, super bosses. Greater than 80,000 HP, Grial. Some enemies are immune to everything so you have to hit them a lot. If your build is good you get to hit them less, otherwise you will be rolling for a long time. Don't fuck up your roll otherwise you have to do it over again. I did not beat the game. I dropped this when I killed the second Black Knight in Undead Burg. First time playing the game, blind run. Oh, cool. Black Knight sounds cool. I'll try using this thing. Wow, Dark Souls is pretty easy. And this is how I robbed myself of Dark Souls 1. I am playing through for the first time and I started using the Bloodhound's Fang because it was the first great sword I got. Is it a cheap weapon? Should I use something different? I recently picked up the Sword of Night and Flame and it looks cool but takes so much int and faith to use. Who cares? It's like people who use Abyss Watcher suit / weapon or Fallen Knight armor in DS3. I personally like to RL1 until after Godric just because the amount of runes I get from non-remembrance bosses like Margit and Tree avatars isn't really that crazy and it's better spent for weapons and upgrades, especially since I can get those amount of runes easily anytime after Godric. Also in my first playthrough I used it briefly too, but I ended up using the grafted blade until I used the greatsword. I just bought this game and it's too confusing and too hard. There's hundreds of stats which I'm not even sure what they do. The map is too big and the game is too hard. And this means what? Fuck it, I'm gonna make my GF put on some heavy makeup, some shine fake tattoos and make funny reactions at the game while I'm playing it. Damn, guess I'll restart and just use a level 1 character until the end, since that's the only way to really beat the game apparently. Bloodhound fan still misses the point of the thread, so you recognize that porn stars are humiliating but not that you use the same weapons as they do. It's becoming a humiliation ritual at this point. I mean you don't even need to know it's meta to know it's cool. It's one of the first and easiest ever jails you'll do. I mean I hate to admit it but Margit filtered me when I first played so I went south and beat Darwell. I mean now I can do Margit and Godric RL1 with just catch flame. It means that the pathetic cheat posting those screen caps are the types of people who be watching your GF and giving them money. Kek, you could probably make some cash off them. Weepfug my GF, sure, drop the link. More like how to beat Margit the Fellowman in Elden Ring build LMAO. I recognize that you watching porn stars play a video game is more pathetic than me using a weapon in said video game. This beaut. Found it before it became well known and I learned very quickly how good Glintstone Dart is. No weapon was as cool. He knows Twitch but not YouTube, ha 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 ha, try to cover it up by pretending to be a normie. It's only getting more embarrassing. I 100% agree. Half of the fun is discovering and experimenting with gear yourself. Any Souls player with any self-respect would do this because it's how the game is meant to be played. New players going straight for the best gear are just shitters afraid of getting filtered, exposed, and embarrassed, which is counterintuitive because it would make failing look even more pathetic. Epic follow-up, but personally Flamberga, Sway, and Claymore are all the best STR weapons. I never used it until my last run, because it looked retarded and gay, but after using it I would say it's decent and gay. If I remember correctly it's the only buffable somber weapon for some reason. Eleanor's pole blade during my blind run. It carried me until Melania, where I took the bunk pill. Using a OP weapon in a game is as degenerate as literal porn. Kek, you fried your little pea brain at this point. Admitting to having TikTok, wow, get the fuck out of here right now. KEK the cope. Keep telling yourself that, buddy. It'll hurt less soon LMAO. I use summons cause I'm not afraid to play the game how it's meant to be played. Notice something, shitter gets mad doing God's work OP. Aren't normies the ones who watch shit like Twitch and YouTube? You're trying way too hard, buddy, but please continue melting down because I don't watch your precious e-celebs LMAO. INSH Ella, don't report it to your mom, Abdul. He'll probably make fun of you for being such a scrub LMAO. You're an example of the poor mental state people are left in when their only friends are online personas that you pay money for a shout out from, ha 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 ha. Kumar is seething about TikTok now that he got owned by porn stars LMAO. You're the one who brought up Twitch knowing that they stream there. I only see it on YouTube, KEK, pretend more. This is embarrassing for you and entertaining for me. I didn't use bleed until my second playthrough, and even though I'm using a cold instead of bleed, holy shit, it is game changing how much free damage we get. I'm on my first playthrough without looking the meta up, and I've been using this weapon, summons, and the scarlet rot breath from the dragon church. I beat every boss in 1 to 3 tries so far, and I'm past Renala. This game is for babies, lol. Dark Souls 1 is way harder than this shit. I don't know why you spelled Kumar wrong, but I also have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. I don't watch porn anymore. It just felt really gross after my cum drawer got full. 3 times I promised if I am to ever jerk off again it must be to my own drawings, and I'm a really terrible artist. It's like an 8/10 weapon in terms of power. But you get it at the very beginning of the game when the other weapons you are finding are like 6/10 max, and it also uses somber stones to upgrade, which are way easier to find than regular stones. So if you are using it, it will probably be your highest upgraded weapon until endgame when you can max out anything. You mean how you didn't beat the game? Laughing won't hide the pain from knowing that you got carried by Bloodhound Fang, the same weapon carrying porn stars KEK. Cheap meltdown because someone called him out for posting horror streamers. Don't you have some Twitch to watch? He's not wrong, just exaggerating. Using a bland, early game / starter weapon is one of the most Chad things to do in these games. For example, if you go prisoner class, you'd be kind of a fag for not going with a flail build. I'm playing DS3 for first time in Godolithric, Knight, Straight, Sword. Is this a OP weapon? I'm sticking with it because it's a realistic, tasteful design, and my starting spear was too slow, and not as satisfying as it was in DS2. Sorry, I'm gonna use the Fang. I don't care that it's OP, I'm still gonna use it, ha 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 ha. I haven't played Elden Ring. Post the coolest spear in the game to convince me to play it. Poleaxes are okay too. My absolute nigger. I'm in my first playthrough and now I'm disgusted with myself for using this weapon. It was the first big sword I got, so I went with it, but now I realize it was carrying me. Should I start over? Will I ever be able to reach my peak without using the Bloodhound Fang again? Is it all downhill from here? Did I ruin the game for myself? This one is pretty late game though, it's deep into the DLC. What? Someone used a good weapon in a video game and didn't purposely look it up to check if it's approved by other players to use without arbitrary social consequences on the internet? What a fucking loser. It's so funny how people acted like everyone using Rob is following a guide. Get Jetstream Sam's katana as a forced element of progression. Ugh, I can't believe people used this. That's a shame. What about spears you can get early? No, Mr. False Flag, nobody believes or talks like this. Gatekeeping is for mongoloids who feel like they're special for some reason unbeknownst to normal people who don't care too much about a certain video game developer. Let me guess, you need more? My guiding moonlight. Bleed being OP is a literal and ironic meme from people ass mad they died to it in PvP. The easiest playstyle is Faith, it's not even close. Kobe. New player BHF, okay. It's a strong weapon, even Monkey will recognize it. White Mask, you can't get White Mask before you get to Moog's Palace, you lying cunt. It's impossible not to fall in love with that weapon. Even if it was dog shit, people would still use it. Sounds like you're coping from getting pounded by the Fang, as are most people who try to convince themselves they're playing the game the right way. Keck, even the game's creator thinks you're a joke. I just like doing flips, Mang. I don't do PvP because it's shit, but I'm intelligent enough to recognize a crutch when I see one. The criticizing faggot basically confesses to have already searched the meta while I simply follow my superior gamer instincts. I always find it funny that people think the Drake sword needs to be looked up online and they didn't just intuitively shoot the dragon tail. Imagine being such a colossal faggot that you seek out the activities of people you know will make you mad, since they'll do things like utilize the meta to beat a game. True motherless behavior. Rod and Gree attacks causes Scarlet Rot by default, able to be upgraded by a normal smithing stones in Ash of War / infusion replacement poison blade Ash of War, but with heavy infusion rod and 1 exaltation for attack power boost whenever rot / poison exists in my area. Knight cavalry armor. I play Death Knight in World of Warcraft and wanted to make something similar in Elden Ring. So I apply rot and poison at the same time. Paired with charged attack tier, charge attack talisman, and 2-handed talisman from the DLC. No, that's actually perfect. Long, thin, and pointy. Crutch in a single player game, like I said. Even the game's creator thinks people like you are jokes. Even without talismans, Bloodhound's Fang is a great weapon. It's easy to see how a lot of people use it for the entire game. It's the earliest good somber quality scaling weapon. Godric's axe is quality too, but it's just shit. If I'm doing quality, I use the Fang, the Frost Lightning Halberd, Dung Eater's sword, then if I feel like it, Godfrey's axe. Quality infusion sucks for some reason. I miss DS3. If you have to tell yourself and others that you're intelligent, you are not intelligent. I think it is the bolt of Granzax. You can also release red lighting with it. But the coolest poke weapon for me is the Bloody Helix, but it is a heavy thrusting sword instead of a spear. I've only ever played this game with heavy jumping attacks and bleed. Is it actually playable and beatable with other builds, like an in-spell casting build for instance? Would you even have time to cast spells during these crazy boss fights? I have installed, uninstalled and reinstalled this game 3 to 4 times by now. I have played for almost 150 hours and have still not beaten the game. I truly believe only NEETs and streamers have the time and patience to complete it. As a wage slave, I do not have the patience for this shit. What kind of deranged retard opinion is this? Faith is abysmal dog shit, and if there are any actually good weapons, they're guide tier hidden in bumfuck nowhere. I spent 80 hours trying to play a Faith build before giving up on the game, then coming back 2 years later to breeze through Lindell and onwards with full Dex Raptor Talons. Quickstep is the closest thing I can get to playing Neo again. I have played for almost 150 hours and have still not beaten the game, the base game or the DLC. Are you using tools available to you, or are you being fucking retarded and trying to solo shit when it's well beyond your skill? Is bleed even still strong these days? I keep hearing everyone switch to shields and guard counter for the DLC, so I assume the DPS doesn't hold up. Or is it just the case that enemies are so powerful that turtling is the only option for shitters? I haven't played the DLC because I genuinely don't give a fuck besides playing PvP with the new weapons at some point. Elden Ring is so boring to play. Neat. I like the lightning spear in Dark Souls. Implying there isn't an item you can get in the first few hours of the game that teleports you to Milk's Palace. Do not speak to me, casual. It's not even a good fucking weapon, it's mediocre as fuck. And anyways, I don't know what world you live in, but 9/10 new players play with sorceries in Moonvale. Fleet is still plenty strong. It's just that there are items/weapons in the DLC that promote guard countering, and that many of the bosses are so aggro the entire time that being able to hide behind a shield is just easier. In fact, the best great shield build is usually using a bleed-infused rapier/spear/poking weapon. Smith Script Spear, one of the best spears in the whole game. Even Monkey will recognize it. ESL detected. Please leave my American website and go talk to your village relatives on WhatsApp or whatever the fuck you brown people do. Guide, I looked up, you didn't beat the game. The rest of your post is automatically moot. STFU. I never said you couldn't. Just know everyone else is as well, so it kinda makes you an NPC. What's new? Soulsborne facts bash everyone that uses a build other than their own. I beat the game with an sorcery/magic Ash of War build, mostly using the Naginata, Uchigatana, and Death Ritual Spear, and people gave me endless shit for opening fights with sorceries from a distance, and for using Death Ritual Spear on large enemies that eat most of the spears. One dipshit on here shit posted for an hour straight because I used Night Maiden's Mist to AoE groups of enemies or hit enemies that were out of line of sight instead of jumping into hordes face first or running around corners straight into ambushes. What is so good about White Mask? I've never worn it once. Why is it difficult to admit you are playing on an easier level? That's what Bleed is, you just make the game easier with no downsides. Giant Hunt off based. I enjoy the early game, get to Altus after 20 to 30 hours, realize I'm not even halfway through the game and give up. Furthest I ever got was to the Golden City, but by then every enemy is like a boss with bullshit damage and HP. It's still very effective in a game state they tried to neuter many effective old strats. Surprising, even. Ooh, that's even pointier than the other one. I like it. You get an attack boost when Bleed procs near you, it stacks with Lord of Blood Exaltation Talisman too. Make a low level 0 to 60 PvP character invade/get invaded half the time the reusing a Bloodhound Fang. It's really bad for PvP, you just have to dodge into their teleport attack at the right time. I literally get excited when I see one because I've become so good at dodging the weapon art I can slow walk into their weapon art and make them look retarded. Hey, never knew it had that effect. Looks ugly as sin, thought so, I'll still never use it. Because there is no selectable difficulty, dumbass. I'm just using the tools the game gives me. Gatekeeping moron, don't even use Bleed BTW either, LOL. New player use Bloodhound's Fang. Spam jump attacks. See people here talk about Claw Talisman, look it up. Realize I missed it, now my build is even more OP, thanks brothers. It used to be an online only case. T-line in the area is scaled very highly even if you rush through to Liurnia to get Bar's teleport. Why did I say weapon art twice for no reason? Am I retarded? Oh sorry, but I'm just gonna look up guides and there's nothing you can do about it. Ha 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 ha, sorry. But by then every enemy is like a boss with bullshit damage and HP, that means you're in an area you shouldn't be yet. The game scales in a way that doesn't scale with the player. If you find all enemies are wildly damaging and have too much health, you're in the area you shouldn't be at your level and/or gear level. Explore places off the beaten path. Find items, find runes, find upgrade materials, etc. People seem to forget that Elden Ring is an RPG and RPGs reward exploration. Game takes too long, dude, spend even more time playing LMAO. Considering it's a video game, I'd say that's fine. Let me guess, you have an iPhone? I'd much rather be an NPC in Elden Ring than in real life. Didn't say there was, and I didn't say you can't use Bleed, just wondering why you are so self-conscious about using it. Bleed is ridiculously overrated. I used to Bleed build on my third playthrough and I found it basically on PAR with faith and strength, and it was even easier. Everything can be overpowered. My personal favorite is the Death Ritual Spear. It has the ranged AoE spear called Ritual, and it has a unique heavy attack that deals slashing damage and sweeps the wide areas, while still having a piercing light attack and being capable of poking from behind a shield. The problem you might have with it as a lover of spears is that most spears scale off of dexterity, and those that don't are usually big as lances and whatnot that scale off of strength. This spear scales mostly off intelligence. You can modify the scaling of some weapons by using an Ash of War on them, but weapons with special skills like this one typically can't have an Ash of War applied to them. However, you can apply Ashes of War to most of the other spears in the game to give them intelligence scaling and change part of their damage from physical to magical. That's what I enjoyed playing. Spears that not only did piercing damage to counter armor, but did magic damage that bypassed it as well. I just use Rob because it looks cool. Reminds me of Sekiro's Mortal Blade. I truly do wish FromSoft games and Souls games did a better job of NPC quest lines. I don't mean putting a marker on my map, but make it so your character automatically takes notes. I shouldn't miss some tiny phrase or word from an NPC that they will only say once and disappear. Then I look up a case T-line guide and find they fucked off to some area wildly out of the way and off the beaten path. Like, how the fuck was I supposed to find them? What's that? I killed Long Dick the Conqueror before advancing Stump, Knight of the Chode Champions quest line? Guess that case T-line is perma-locked out and I have to do another character. In my first playthrough, I never used a guide but randomly found the Dragon Communion Island, so decided then and there to spec into that because dragons are cool, which meant my only attack most of the time was the Dragon Maw, which did usually 3-shot bosses. Later on found out you can learn Dragon Breath attacks and shit which were safer, but nothing ever beat going up to a boss to take a chomp. You can get these fairly early and they clearly outclass most equipment up to that point. Level Vitality to 40, get the base requirements for a weapon you like, and then level the stat that works for it. If you do that, and upgrade your weapon as you go along, it's literally impossible to feel that way going forward. I just looked up one of those Bleed build guides and they're recommending that you run straight to Ver and then roll off a cliff to your death because he'll follow you off the cliff and die too to get the mask. It's so over. How can I be self-conscious about something I don't use? Besides, everyone is on the exact same playing field except for retards like you who think using a certain tool the game gives you isn't allowed, or else you really didn't beat the game. People calling out gatekeeping for being retarded doesn't mean they're self-conscious. That's like saying I'm a homophobe because I don't want to be around gays. It's just an assumption people are making because they can't fathom someone saying or doing something they don't like. RPG takes too long. Bought a game and game type known for having at least 100 hours of gameplay. HURR game take too long. Me want boss rush. You are not the target audience. Leave the game uninstalled and go play something more your speed. Fortnite maybe. This nigga thinks it's about the destination and not the journey. LMAOO. Yet I like how Baldur's Gate 3 did it, with a journal of character names filled in with everything you've learned about them. Bolt of Granzax is kinda nice. You leap into the air, summon some red lightning, then chuck it at enemies. People that look up optimal builds before they even know what the fuck is going on. This is the Zoomer and Gen Alpha way. I know a Zoomer that farmed all his skills to 99, full heavy armor, shield, profaned blade, and use magic and still had to summon and use ashes to beat the DLC. He thinks he beat the game. I'm using a mimic tier and the Bloodhound Fang to clear this game, and this thread is making me feel self-conscious. Should I go back and replay without summons and using a worse weapon? Nihil. Tech. Yes, BTW, the only true way to beat the game is naked and torch only. As opposed to what? Getting Endure or Giants Hunt literally 5M and trivializing the whole game and DLC even higher than with White Mask / Bloodhound. Nah, but you should get help because you keep posting similar shit like this over and over. Miyazaki would think you're a prick. Also, I can think of one group of people who use similar false flag tactics. If you go south first like you are supposed to, you will naturally find this WEP and realize it's awesome. Now in my first playthrough I didn't go south and hit my head against the wall repeatedly only to come back to this place later in almost one shot everything, but I bet some others aren't as retarded. Gatekeeping. Reddit is down the hall and to the left. /v/culture is being an asshole elitist about something that's inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Trying to turn it into some kind of grandstanding moral issue just makes you a faggot. It's actually fun to argue about video games and to hold strong opinions. Grow up and watch scantily clad women pretend to play video games. LMFAO. Nah, only play again if you enjoyed the game. Simple as. Builds heavily focused on bleed used to be so broken that they would actually delete a boss before they could even finish their monologue for phase 2 for instance, so everyone thinks bleed equals didn't beat the game. Meanwhile I've been using pure strength, charged heavy attack poise breaking build to back stagger bosses and no one says a thing. Bleed is just wildly broken though even post nerf. Cleanred Spear summons a field of golden spears under your enemies. Carried me the whole game, beat Elden Beast with it on launch. Golden Halberd I kept it all the way through the game too. Autismo-kun, I'm pretty sure it's a popular weapon because it's not only the first anime weapon you get your hands on but you can get it at the very start and it's not even gated by a difficult enemy. Honestly I think having that thought is more cringe than using the weapons and spirits in the first place. Evoke your inner chat and start counter-posting like if they didn't want us to use it wouldn't be in the game, and if the boss is allowed to be bullshit then I'm allowed to be bullshit. Lord Sworn greatsword from the back of that first black coach. /v/culture is being an asshole elitist about something that's inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Wow, you couldn't have it more ass backwards. Debating isn't the same as gatekeeping, which you coincidentally just did again trying to tell me to go back. Reddit is where you belong unironically because of the extreme gatekeeping. You'd fit in perfect there, you elitist fag. Literally me. Sometimes the gate needs to be kept. Casual. There are some nice talismans for spear builds, too. One increases damage done to enemies with spears while they are mid-attack, with the idea being you can use your superior reach to hit enemies before their attacks reach you, or you can use your ability to poke from behind a shield to hit enemies while blocking their attacks at the same time. I like magic weapons that scale with int. Makes for some interesting battle mage builds. I heard that there's a rapier that is the fedora of Elden Ring. Which one is it? I want to use it to make zoomers and trim sieve. Maybe the gate to a nice community, sure. Gotta keep out people like you who shit up the place for people just trying to enjoy themselves. Too much stuff around the tip for my taste. Probably the ice one or the rot one. Did a new run last month, got the Z-hander and had fun blowing enemies away. Got to Fortnite Sax Dragon bitch took no damage from Sway and kept killing me. Red on Wiki, he is weak to Pierce, found a spear and spent all my stones and runes leveling up. He kept taking no damage and I kept dying. Uninstall. Probably Antspur. I read this without context. Still shitting your pants about my Bloodhounds. Miyazaki and Tanamura decided to put the buffable somber weapon with build and bleed in Bloodhound's step 1. In line grab. Deal with it already. There's far more egregious shit in this game to get your dick in a knot about. At least this one requires you to actually fucking walk up and hit something to work properly. White mask user detected. Is it normal that all weapons have some kind of magic ability? I prefer to just poke enemies. I have no idea what that is. Been using the Red Hood since Stormvale or whatever the first castle is called. No, stop being toxic in my heckin' wholesome community, please stop. Gatekeeping is toxicity. Wow, retard doesn't know the meaning of what he's arguing with. What a surprise, be as toxic as you want, fag. That's expected here. Don't blame me because you are too retarded to tell the difference. You didn't beat the game. Moonveil is Moriso. That looked up a guy, faggot weapon. And Rob is pretty endgame, but that an MV were that. Hihi, look at me, I beat LE hard game. LE Malmia XD. Faggot cookie cutter weapons. VHF is definitely a popular casual choice, but it's incredibly easy to just run into naturally, so I won't hold it against them. Plus it's a cool weapon and you have to actually work for the bleed procs. Now if they're wearing a bleed mask throwing out bleed flies yada yada yada, it's definitely not their first playthrough or they looked up a goddamn guide. Just write it down, you fucking idiot. Even worse than BHF tech. With power stance jumpies you still got the talisman and cape and some incantations like GV and FGMS. I did a dual bleed CGS build with BHF and Morgoth's weapon. Pretty fun. It is disgusting how good that starting class build is. Medium rolls off the rip, solid ranged attack utility. Can even choose to go short bow so you are not slowed while mounted, and you can rapid fire status arrows. Basic bitch katana, but it has innate bleed. Can be buffed and infused. Solid moveset. Solid range armor. Not only looks fucking sick, but overall just is dependable. I like this one. Looks like there are lots of good spears, but the game also seems to be very magic heavy. Been by my side since my first playthrough. Favorite weapon in the game. Especially dual wielded. Now that I've used it on multiple builds and thus have had to farm for it on multiple characters. Yeah, I guess I got stupid lucky on my first playthrough kek. I think I got it from that first Limegraph caravan, across the bridge from Bach. Just write what down, you stupid cunt? Some vague message that has nothing to do with where this person may go? Or what steps might need to be done to even SE this persona again? It's always the most vague garbage ever, and sometimes, there's no hint at all. You just have to get lucky with your exploration. Again, not asking for hand holding with a quest marker, but even a journal entry of she said she was going to head towards the insert location here ruins. This at least makes it so you have a starting point. Elden Ring 2 will surely have an easy mode. The balance between somber and regular weapons is kind of shit in general, especially to the casual player. 1 somber vs 12 regular pretty much means you're only going to get one weapon upgraded unless you know where the bell bearings are or scour the map for stones. Players are always going to pick the path of least resistance. BHF woman weapon. I used 2 Bloodhound's Fangs on NG+. Didn't use it for my first character second or third though. On ER launch I used Colossal Greatswords pre-nerf. I'll be honest though. BH Fang is worse than Great Stars. To be fair, once you uncover the locations of the somber/regular smithing stone bell bearings, I always hunt them down ASAP in a new playthrough. Why wouldn't I? They're not exactly hard to get and then there is no running around hunting for scraps. You just upgrade whatever you want. I think you can get a weapon to like plus 12 or around there before you need the bell bearing from the Zamar ruins in the mountaintop of the Giants area. Gives you plenty of time to try out weapons. Did you beat her without summoning spirits? He never tried Golem Great Bow. You should try Golem Great Bow. I looked this up because I'm terrible at gauging how good weapons are from their unupgraded version. I did DS3 blind and ended up using the little warrior hatchet the whole way through because I didn't find anything better. If you didn't use the dance pad you didn't beat the game. I remember on my first playthrough when I saw that guy looking in the distance and I thought that was such a cool background detail. Blew my mind when I actually found that you can go to him with an imbued stone sword key. Especially blew my mind when I found Mugwine Palace. Literally see that mountain tear but for real. I watch her to see her titties bounce. Absolutely not. I beat her pre-nerf when she was still healing from her hitting your iframes. My mimic and I clubbed her to death like a baby seal using 2x great maces and frost weapon paste stuff. I would throw frost pots at her when she did her rot flower going into phase 2. Frost pot, throwing knife, frost pot, throwing knife, etc. Kept her stun locked and fucked her like she owed me money. Still took 20 plus attempts. I've beaten this bitch like 20 fucking times at this point and on. Parries, light build, med build, STR build, dex build, bleed shit. I'm just bullying her at this point. Same goes for Consort Raiden. All weapons will have special attacks but generally the game is split between normal customizable weapons and magical weapons with unique skills. If your titties weren't bouncing, you didn't beat the game. T probably goons to Mikella. The day FromSoft retires arrows and mana I will gladly try ranged weapons. Arrows and mana being limited resources is not fun. I summoned some perfumer guy to throw sparkles at her. Many do, but there are plenty of physical skills. Lunging thrust is on most of the basic spears in the game, and that's just a hop forward into a heavy thrusting attack with insane reach. Pickroll is some skills I think I've used on spears and halberds, maybe a twin blade or 2, most of them being physical skills. You can craft like every consumable in the game, especially ammo. That or you can just buy more from a vendor more often than not. I think there's only a few truly finite ammos in the game and even then, you can make bone versions with your crafting that do the same effect. The beloved. Power stance axe and hammer movesets are so ass, I don't know why you guys even bother. Wouldn't say contempt but I do feel bad that they'll probably not try out the better weapon. This thing rewards a good player so well, very aggressive weapon. Is that chick playing as Farker? Just 2-hand those, and 2-handed sword medallion easily makes up for it. Have foes hold 10 arrows and regenerate a new arrow every 5 seconds and make casting cost stamina. Sounds like you need to use a cheat engine because that's just never going to happen. Milady's your boss to death hat, Newton personnel. Are spellcasting builds actually viable? How come I never see anybody using one? Love at first sight in Lime Grab. I was doing a mono STR run and it let me play really aggressive against Margit and Godric. Love my stagger stick. Based Amuler Enjoyer. I found the light great swords to be kind of a letdown. I love how fast they are, but their moveset locks you into a double or triple slash every time. I see. Lunging thrust sounds great. Because streamers are retards and spellcasting requires a brain for proper positioning and timing. Of course they are. How come I never see anybody using one? Because they're fucking boring. Wingstance Ash of War heavy attack is nice, just a single thrust that does a lot of damage. Is PvP/Coop meta still 150? Unsure if I should level past it or keep hoarding smithing stones. Don't power stance then. For PvE int is fucking busted. Bastard sword always bastard sword. Great swords isn't Milady the only one? Started with halberd, because I picked Vagabond, but I looked up where to get BMO about 5 hours in. First time I actually used a guide before I beat any of these games. Two-handing a normal sized axe looks retarded. No if you are having fun, yes if you would have more fun without using those. This is literally all that matters, the opinions of random idiots doesn't matter in the slightest. How do you deal so much damage with straight swords? What skibidi level is this? Dual wielding literally anything looks retarded. Two-handing an axe is intended. 20 skibidi golden vow, FMGS the rest of the build is pickroll. I will say that going from 12 skibby to 20 skibby only gets you an extra 0.20x attack, the build is doing most of the heavy lifting. Why the fuck would I not use it? It does the most damage and bleed out of any weapon that I have. Is people's problem the secondary ability being OP? Elden Ring is suffering. What is wrong with you? 3 of them, all similar in moveset, just different scaling. Milady just has overall good scaling with whatever infusion you choose. The others are more faith/int based and it splits the damage. I'm not sure if it counts. When I started I did faith and beat Godric with a broadsword but was interested in faith arcane because of Dragon Communion. Then I found out about blood spells requiring faith arcane, so I kind of gunned it for this because Noble at the Rose Church wouldn't drop it. Doesn't Rule Anna's weapon behave completely differently because it's dual wielded? A. I double checked and it's just impaling thrust, not lunging thrust. B. If you're the same and on that like the Bat Lemage idea, the Death Ritual Spear is half or more through the game, in the mountaintop of the Giants. There's another spear that scales with intellect, deals partial magic damage, and comes with impaling thrust that you can get earlier on called the Clayman's Harpoon. I used it for most of my first playthrough, even after getting the Death Ritual Spear. See, you can dual wield spears, in case that interests you. It gives you a double stab attack, I think. I disagree. Some stuff looks cool like curved swords, curved GS, daggers, maybe katanas, maybe straight swords. Axes looks pretty cool dual wielded. Elden Ring is unironically exactly like the fake Spellbound League in that everybody uses magic even if you go pure STR. Like storm arts are literally the magic of your basic sword and shield knight. I'm using this right now and I fucking love it. Maybe all great spears have the same moveset but the running charge attack on foot and especially horseback on this thing are insane. The Great PP. My first ever Souls game and this is what I used to beat it. I didn't even get the spirit calling bell until Lindell caused no idea. Great time. That's the pizza wheel. Dual wielding spears and halberds look so retarded. This OR dismounter. I miss Mamira Kumo. Yup, great spears on horseback are fucking god tier. Tree spear also has a unique R2 that does a ton of posture damage. At least it did when I used it. Able to be upgraded via normal smithing stones, this isn't a plus. It feels like a shadow of the BB pizza cutter. To me it is because somber weapons meant you couldn't change their Ash of War and slash or couldn't change their infusion to match your desired stats. What's a good early STR weapon? Is the bleed mace any good? It was real nice in DS1 and DS2 as the beginner weapon. Brick hammer and rusted anchor are hard to beat. Managed to farm this off a clean red knight and the rest was history. I didn't really settle. I killed the tree sentinel right out the gate like a lot of others and immediately started leveling the stats for it and that was my main weapon until I RESP'd into it after I finished Ronnie's quest and got the DMGS but I dual wielded crescent axes and the flamberga with the bastard sword while I was running STR as well. Then the DMGS was my main weapon throughout Altus / Jelmer / Lindell while I occasionally dual wielded the Astal and Serpent God's curved swords. Once I was done with Lindell I RESP'd into Dex, mainly because I fell in love with Granzax, but dual sword spears were my main weapon while Granzax served as my ranged option and I incorporated the Crag Blade once I was done with Firm Magula and I finished the game with Dex. I went to the Halo tree after Firm Magula so I still had some time to have fun with the Crag Blade. Rusted anchor and put wild strikes on it, then UNGA to the extreme. You can infuse almost anything with heavy and it will be a good strength weapon. But brick hammer is nice if you want a bonk weapon, the damage is massive though it has short range. I didn't settle, it was love at first bonk. Total omen death. Strength faggots are easily the most fraudulent in every Souls game and they cry the most about stuff like this, why is that? These with cold infusion is so silly. But you might only need main hand cold infusion with something like chilling mist and left hand arcane / bleed. The sprinting attack with hammer has good forward momentum and if all else fails start jumping, find the wet knife that lets you make any weapon heavy and you can use basically anything. A lot of the early ashes you find will have the option anyways though. Strength faggots are easily the most fraudulent in every Souls game, the fuck does that even mean? You can't fully experience the game unless you Google things first. Just spend 1000 hours playing the game until you stumble upon all the secrets, bro. Yeah? No. Strength was overpowered back in Dark Souls but these days you are fucking lucky to even land one light swing with how tight the timings are now. Can't imagine how hard Mesmer is for great sword users. I convinced Morto suicide early for his armor and shit but what was his deal? Lore wise. Was he just some autismo? And the non-hostile rots are a thing because he saved that specific brood? They don't have to look it up. They have 1,000 people in their chat hounding them to use this weapon or that weapon. Of course they're going to use whatever their chat insists is strong, that's part of the parasocial dynamic. Greatest weapon in the game is from the fucking joke demigod boss Neil. Noon specs into arcane without following a guide. Strength is actually good since you can functional shields and the narrow windows to attack you can actually get decent hits in. Can't imagine how hard Mesmer is for great sword users. Mash Savage Lion's Claw like a retard and sprint away when he starts floating around to stab you in phase 2. His openings after transforming back from snake mode are possibly the longest any boss in the main path of the expansion actually stands still. Bloodhound's Fang +9 before even attempting the very first boss. Yep, it's gaming time. Bivers of Chud. Really fun weapon. Rykard isn't a joke. Rituvia drops high arcane, you find the dragon communion chuck and need arcane to use its miracles. The only hang up is finding the dragon seal but you'd have to be a complete retard to not go back to the sealed off wall the moment you got your stone key. I keep hearing everyone switch to shields and guard counter with bleed. You haven't tried power stance twin blades I see. Crag blade on O, chilling mist on MH. Maximum bonking power. Can't imagine how hard Mesmer is for great sword users. I beat Mesmer in 10 tries using the blade you get from killing Mollyketh. The Destined Death Blade or whatever it's called, and that's a colossal weapon. Killing him wasn't too hard but you had to be prepared and willing to trade. I had to learn which of his moves I took the least damage from and would trade. Since I was guaranteed going to get hit, I would usually do a charged heavy. Couple of those would stagger Mesmer every time. Became a game of whether I could beat the DPS race before I ran out of heals. I also only had 12 or 13 of the tree fragments by this point, all pre-nerf too, so he was hitting like a truck. Even with the 20% physical negation and 20% fire negation talismans, Golden Vow and Fire grant me strength. People say the same thing about the socially inept retards that use this website. Try to have some empathy. Try to have some empathy. I was sad the edgy Great Katana's special move is just spamming a wide sweep instead of some anime bullshit. At least you can put basically anything on the basic one. It's the wingstance heavy weapon art that does major poise build-up. Enemy AI breaks when the player is slightly airborne with lunging jump attacks. As in it's easy as fuck and you can go through the majority of every Souls game without actually interacting with most of the enemies. It's undervalued and I'm convinced people who only play STR are retarded and dogshit. You can still jumping attack Mesmer LOL. You duck under a lot of his opening moves and you can jump over his circular slashes and his strings and get a free jumping attack too. Beating Mesmer on my STR build was very easy but no bro. Strength is so weak and honest. Come on bro. I did it off release because I wanted to do a poison build after doing a luck build in DS3. STR is the ultra easy mode build in ER. Same exact experience. Retard. I beat Mesmer with a full dex build, no magic, no summons, and level 8 Skidoo tree. Reply to this post if I mock you. Yes, I always play the DLC blind with a straight sword. Anything else you want to cry about? Here's a piece of shit though and I dropped it for the rusted anchor pretty fast. You're right and don't let any handicapped STR mom tell you otherwise. Get made fun of for posting porn stars streaming. How would you know they're porn stars? Unless. Start my first playthrough of Elden Ring using base Lord Sworn's greatsword, which was conveniently placed in a carriage right next to one of the first graces the player will likely see go up the road a bit. See mysterious portal, go in and defeat simple boss. Get one of the best weapons in the game, not 2 hours and blame the game. I guarantee you most players will find the Bloodhound's Fang quickly, and realize its strength. It's handed to you on a silver platter. It's nearly impossible to miss and it outclasses nearly everything at this point in the game. No one believes you. Is Swehander a cheap weapon or did I actually beat the game? I'm 50 hours in and I've been using summons. Do I just restart the game? I just went through the game to get to the DLC and there's a sudden spike in enemy health / damage at mountaintops of the giants. I would kill things in 2 hits in Lindell, but in mountaintops it would be 4. Bosses would take a shit ton of damage from me until I hit mountaintops, then they're all damage sponges. It's cheap. I've always wondered, what part of this deals pierce damage? It doesn't have a single thrusting motion in its moveset. I don't know, just from my intuition of how stuff works it seems pretty honest. It doesn't seem like it can crunch down poise like other collies. True. Strength is only difficult in PvP because of how well you have to read the enemy and demand them to make a mistake. PvE strength is a fucking joke. You can just trade everything with hyper armor, and you're basically forced to trade in ER regardless, so you might as well get the biggest trade. There is no such thing as a cheap weapon. At least melee weapon. Only cheap spells and Ashes of War. Why would the devs implement so many features that you people gatekeep? Maybe just let people enjoy the game and touch grass. Bleed build without dual wielding weapons? It's called Endure and you can find it 5M in. Yep, https://www.youtube.com/watch. V equals XJ7K5JASW. Blew my mind when I actually found that you can go to him with an imbued stone sword key and then get a rune, too, and realize it's not actually connected in any way, shape, or form if the map is still segmented by teleports. Do I play Prophet Bandit or Astrologist? Anchor. Asked my Dexford friend to give me his anchor. 2 anchor. Never found anything else I wanted to use for an extended period of time. Occasionally the brick on the stick for the gimmick blunt only enemies or the stupid fucking ice dragon that takes 0 damage from Pierce. No retard, my ego depends on the belief that everyone has it easier than me. Killing a boss in 5 hits requires skill. Did the DLC add any fist weapons? No, but I will tell you to try the next few bosses without summons. It's a totally different experience and one that I personally feel is more rewarding. Yes. Who are you quoting? Prophet is FAI is the most well-rounded and varied of the sorcery/incantations and eases you into those playstyles. Astrologist isn't the most overpowered right out of the gate and struggles mid-game because Liurnia is full of high stat requirement gear unless you turbo min-max or grind. Bandit is either parry build or arc lead build, usually both, and for enemies resistant to either you go occult. Giga Drill Breaker. If your first playthrough of any Souls game wasn't completely blind, you unironically did not beat, or even play, the game. Yet I've seen Adriana get her back blown out. Oh wait, that was the shallow foam pit at TwitchCon. Is that a drill spell? Subhuman. They could have easily solved this by not hopping on the open world trend. Open world games are the least interesting worlds to explore in games, ironically enough. They could have returned to the Demon's Souls linear level design or Dark Souls 1's interconnected map design, but they refused to for whatever reason, even though that was like one of the coolest things about DS1. Why would you ever need a guide to find Rob? It has one dodge roll attack that looks like it might deal piercing damage, but other than that I think you have to use an Ash of War to take advantage of it. Elden Ring is a linear game, you just don't have the eyes to see and lack a curious mind. It's strong, but I hate how it looks and the animations it uses. Elden Ring is built around reading guides, it isn't. New Souls game, look up where to get Swehander, use Swehander. I'm pretty sure the thrusting Ashes of War count as piercing damage even if the weapon isn't listed to deal piercing damage. The listed damage type refers to what the weapon is capable of with its inherent moveset. Elden Ring is a linear game, no. Elden Ring is easier than any other Dark Souls game. It literally hands you this weapon in the first 2 hours and says, here, beat the game with this. Top tech, everyone said those rock breaker spells were complete useless garbage. I think they got buffed at some point at launch, they didn't give as much poise or something. Running directly to Swehander and Misericord is the optimal way to play the game. Are all spells this cool? It's kind of like complaining most people used the Swehander in DS1 when it was super easy to get and did a fuck ton of damage. Sure, some people probably watched guides, but I'm positive most just picked it up. Why do so many fuckers in this game, including Strafings, still have this misconception that STR equals colossal weapons? Colossal weapons were indeed kind of shit when the game launched. They have been heavily buffed since. For that matter, colossal greatswords on the other hand have always been broken as hell in this game, but that's not the point I'm making. You can be a STR build and use fucking dry leaf arts if you want. They scale better with STR than Dex. You mean Drake Sword and Grass Crest Shield. The min remained. Never seen a player use them when invading or being summoned as a phantom. Granted, outside of Arena 99% of the player base is tasteless and uninteresting. Moonveil niggers everywhere even post DLC, followed by the new Death Knight larpers due to their power in PvP. Magic is infinitely cooler than Metal Stick, swinging slightly different than other Metal Stick. Picked up these on the first day and never stopped using them until I came back for the DLC. Felt weaker than when I last played, so I made my backup spear and shield for the DLC. A lot of spells are just basic projectiles or too slow/easily avoided even by the AI, but there's some cool stuff in there. Did a test run necromancy build for a day. Death spells are actually strong now. Crazy, I see nobody using them while Putrescent Vortex fucks people's shit in while they run from rankers and 8s. Grow some neurons before posting. Dual wield Bloodhound Fang and NG+. 80 STR and 80 Dex. GG easy. Watch, I have nothing but contempt for you. I like the big ass Kamehameha. If the boss is not trying to evade it, that shit will straight up kill them or cut 60-80% of their HP bar. This is not even gaming anymore, it's just doing a list of tasks. No challenge at all. How to not beat the game starter kit. Are there cool spells for arcane or faith or just the nerd shit in magic? What is this? That is a retardedly specific scenario. That dude buffed himself to such an extent that he can tank the boss's attacks, which means almost anything would have worked. Summons couldn't beat her. Rusted Anchor with Wild Strikers was my easy mode. Because for pure int they are, you need the poise and defense of dudes that normally use them for them to be effective. This is why Anon have Endure and Iron Jar Aromatic on top of having a fuckload of HP and standing on the holy ground. You serious? Faith has a lot of variety and arcane is mostly dragon or bleed bullshit. You gotta not cheat to get it. It's real easy. Rodden Winged Sword Insignia, you get it by helping Millicent. Rodden Insignia, a filthy Dexfed talisman. For when you want to not only beat the game, but spank and fuck it in the ass. Int is basically different kinds of blue shit and some physical spells. They suck when it comes to elemental damage utility, but benefit from nothing in-game being weak or strong against magic. FAI is where you get all your buffs and various elemental spells, and FAI is arguably the better caster option because of this. Arcane with the DLC only has like 2 spells that require it purely. For casters it's uses LFAI/Arc for dragon spells and blood spells. There are only 2 in /Arc spells in the whole game, the Oracle Bubbles, which aren't useless but because they're the only ones people forgot about in /Arc. The DLC introduces a new form of blue shit that's actually pale white, called Finger Sorceries, which have some really cool spells. They are pure int requirement-wise, but their boosting staff is in /Arc and the armor set that supports them are in /Arc, so the build technically is supported. There is also in /FAI sorceries and incantations, death, magma, and golden order. But are they actually good against bosses, especially in the DLC? I don't care for shit. Lot of helix-shaped weapons in Elden Ring. Militant prosthesis is the one that gives dex, and anyways, you can use both on STR as well, especially after the DLC. Bleed Greatsword with the Gaius Spinning Ash of War is one of the most busted things in the game right now in PvP. I recently beat her by just spamming Swift Slash. You're dumb. I'm on my first playthrough too, and it clearly looked good to use just looking at the stats, didn't need to check any meta guides or nothing. I'm probably going to stick with Dismounter for now because I'm on a quality build for weapon variety and don't have the spare levels to be putting into Arcane, but it shouldn't be surprising that most people end up using Bloodhound Fang because it seems broken just looking at the stats and description. That's what she said. Moonveil Bloodhound Fingerprint Shield, basically any bleed build, Blasphemous Blade Greatsword spamming Giant Hunt. I don't respect any of these players. These are the players laughing at you for not beating Raiden yet. Dexfigit'll pump out more DPS on a heavy infused Starfist than your gut sword could ever fucking dream of, but good job letting a 15-year-old meme video shape your opinions on the Souls games. Yes, at RL1, but I use cold/bleed katanas, so actually no. Just call him a S-tier fag, stop trying to turn it into some grand moral thing. Using weapons aka hand spirits LMAO LMFAO. Why would I do that? I didn't let a 15-year-old meme video shape my opinions on the Souls games. Yeah, they need to get good. Basically that black guy on Twitch, I was wondering how the fuck he knew how to build a bleed character on his first Souls game so fast. Good thing I used Moore's Shield then. I'm using Dismounter for that reason too. Is Mirakumo seriously not in the game? It was in all previous Souls games. Yerk. The legend never dies. There's a dozen curved great swords and now the great katanas, but not literally Mirakumo. Some of the special ones have pretty good build in ashes. Is it just me or are claws OP-ish in this game? I'm sure if you put together the right build for Zanzibar's Polier yada yada, but I'm 60 hours in and my plus 19, was it? Claws are my go-to weapons to delete an obstacle. Sway seems pretty slow in this game and doesn't do any more poise damage than most STR weapons. They've done that weapon dirty since DS2. Bleed's just strong in general and all the claws have it. The spiked fists can blow shit up too. As they should. I like dual wielding. Later I swapped to Wing of Astal and Cold Scavengers because I like the curved sword attack animations more. True, but I must be loyal to my capo. Love the Itamanji heavy attack. It's crazy how little Moonveil mentions there are in this thread. Yeah, especially if you are more inclined to roll/jump instead GC/parry. I've been using the Halo Scythe, claws and the sword that deletes undead. I'll experiment with new things once I defeat this one feller that lives under the capital, but these 3 carried me for hours now. On a similar note, it's weird how I didn't find a cinch weapon with fire. I even have Scarlet Rot Rapier FFS, multiple frost ones, but not a single fire weapon. Oh well, I have ashes. The second charged R2 on curved great swords is the only good multi-hit R2 on large weapons. Moonveil barely even qualifies as a good weapon after all the nerfs. Gets completely mocked by Unsheathed Nagakaiba. My man Rogier hooked me up, ripped to a real one. TFW Glintblade Phalanx AOW got its poise damage nerfed last month. Ancient Ruins of Ruha or whatever go around for a good 40 minutes, can't find a single grace multi-layered labyrinth. I can't get a hang on how to fully explore several other paths on the outside terrain that I haven't even explored. I literally can't find a single dead end. The fuck? There's 2 graces really close to the Furin's Golem up there. If you've seen him, one across the bridge, you might need to approach from another direction, and one right behind him. Slaps you with a colossal sword. Get vigor checked, nerd. Close to the Furin's Golem up there. If you've seen him, fug. Pretty funny this Fogget thinks anyone is getting hit with a colossal sword. You won't. The quickstep/crouch/rolling thrust of colossal great swords is unmatched, even with your crutch bleed. The wall. TFW you hyper armor a Dexfig so hard he starts to panic roll his replies. The overcompensating over a stat is real. Yeah, the place is a big mess. The first grace I mentioned near the bridge is kinda central, so if you are leaving the eastish part of the ruins you should be able to look down a few floors and see it. Might need to go back into the ruins and find an elevator down to actually get to it without dying from the fall. You can avoid magic altogether and still have a good build. First playthrough was melee only, no spells with the halberd. My weapon art was just spinning in a circle with the halberd. Only reason I still haven't got the DLC. No colossal curved greatsword in base game or DLC. Great katanas are cool but nothing like Mirakumo. How the fuck am I supposed to do 80,000 damage? Make throwable weapons of nearly every type, they all fucking suck ass. Why? So strength fags can keep their status build up when they can only swing their weapon twice a year. S-tier chads only need 2 swings to kill. Throwing hammer is good though. I just used the first weapon that dropped for the whole game. They really shouldn't have put something so busted in the first 5 minutes of the game. ADR was always a Melania rape machine, but the main thing is now Death Sorcery has a nuke in the form of the Putrescent spells and reliable ranged frost option that bosses can't dodge very well in the form of the Spookates. Vortex is easier to get off than Glob. Probably afraid that if they were too good, people would never have to get close to do any damage. I do like having Smith's Script Dagger in the offhand for a quick ranged attack. I did. Mostly because of seeing the cool Blood Dagger and deciding I wanted to use dragon spells. When I came back to Margit I stomped him with Rot Breath. Smith's Script Shield is amazing. What are you on about? Ah, you were at my side all along, my true legend, my guiding base cannon. This, spells and ranged was are tied to FP to create a limited resource a player has to spec into and a lot precious healing items to maintain. Plus 90% of them are incredibly difficult to pull off. Smith script being basically just endless ranged melee weapons with no cost while also sustaining close range damage invalidates actual melee weapons from a PvE standpoint. I hate the white mask. Bleed is so easy to PROC, so you always get the 10% attack power buff, making it a better helm than anything else in the game, so you're stuck with this ugly fucking thing. Just use the talisman. Greater than 2-hand sword talisman. I'm never taking this off. I wish I had found it sooner in the DLC, but it took me forever to notice the path I missed. Except they both stack. You don't have to be greedy, Anon. I just watched someone beat Putrescent Knight by exploiting his strike weakness and just throwing like 20 round rocks at him. Meanwhile mages complain he's too difficult because they're too retarded to take their moon veil / magic, both he's resistant to, often throw rocks of their own, there's even a fucking sorcery for it, or just use a blood WEP. I'm saying this because I see a lot of people bitch about Putrescent and it just occurred to me it's all the katana / bleed / magic faggots who refuse to adjust. You don't even need to respect, just use the shit in your toolkit that you already have. Use gravity magic or a blood WEP or put keen / occult on a flail or lighter Griatomer if you're a dex or arcane build. It's so fucking simple. Same. I used this thing nearly all the way through. Putrescent has 0 holy resistance, so faith fags win again. I've only heard complaints on the Discord. Yet I killed him in like 5 hits on my STR / faith character. Sacred Order buff that does extra to skeletons on a giant crusher, absolutely raped. I killed Relena and Mesmer, both of which are resistant to magic, by slamming my magic's way up their lanky asses. I don't get it. You hate me for using meta builds and hate me for going in blind and not knowing anything. Do I use meta builds or not? How do I join the 4CHA and Cool Kids Club? I just beat the Skittle Tree Avatar despite not exploring the Shadow Keep at all pretty much. Did I fuck any KST lines up? Bloodhound's Fang makes sense though since you can get it early game. I didn't even know it had the extra dash moveset until I accidentally did it late game, and even then, I had forgotten about it by the time I got more Weaons. Wearing the mask is definitely a tell that they looked up a guide though. And hate me for going in blind and not knowing anything. Who actually would hate you for that? And is that not how you approach games by default because it's the most fun? I'm just about to fight Putrescent, so I wonder how it'd feel with a Mage Knight build. It was this Weander until I discovered light greatswords in the DLC. Sorry Lita, but your sword is my Kino now. If you want a real answer and you're not shitposting, it's because Elden Ring is a cinematic experience and one of the best games of all time, and it fills me with sadness to watch someone ruin their own experience by looking up optimal builds and guides instead of learning the game on their own. Also, nobody hates you for going in blind, you made that up. At the end of the day, it's a single player game, so play it however you want to, but I guarantee the player who looks up optimal guides and builds to beat every boss in just a few tries will never feel the sheer euphoria you feel after beating a boss like Melania after dying 150 times, or the wonder and excitement of coming across a new zone or a boss you've never seen before. Use weapon with an OP weapon art where it's OP AF because of the WA spam. Also the WA is actually fun to use. Do UNGA bunga dual wield jump attacks with it instead, but it's the MIM OP way to play MMMMMMMM. No. Shadow Keep is like a hub dungeon where you can gain access to other parts of the map. Mesmer is the boss, but he is extremely overtuned, so it's like they want you to explore the areas as you find them. Skibidi Avatar is more like the boss of the church district part of the keep. I suggest you save Mesmer for last because it thematically makes the most sense. Not my first Soulsborne game though. I basically told myself that I should at least main the Moonlight Greatsword equivalent for my first run. Obviously, finding out it's attached to Ronnie made it even better. Supplemented it with other magic weapons. What the fuck? Why does that work but the pizza cutter doesn't PROC? Literally pay to win. I threw some rings of light at him and they do like double the damage that anything else in the DLC takes, even with my shit Sork scaling, and Black Steel Hammer has a bit of holy on it, so he got wrecked. Mesmer is not overtuned. It is just that Mesmer does one thing very well. He knows perfectly well how to punish cowardice. He is one of those bosses that force you into close quarters combat. You have to one-hand the pizza cutter. But he is extremely overtuned. I wouldn't say overtuned, but I don't know why people are in such a rush to slam through the bosses. I explored in a fucking weird order and did most of the Shadow Fort with only level 6 blessings though. Could only reasonably beat the tree avatar like that. Came back later for Mesmer and Gaius. I gave him a try and was doing like chip damage at 10 skibid. I then went on and tried other fights like Romina and Skibidi Avatar and noticed they took more appropriate damage. People even complain on Fear Extrashit that Romina is too weak and they wished they fought her sooner. Dry Leaf also leaves a message talking about finding the ceiling tree but needing flame. So it's apparent that you want to fight those bosses before skibiding up for Mesmer. I'd say Meteor is his equal though, despite her extreme lighting weakness, which I exploited. But the multi-hit blocks don't work with its skill. This game was so fucking ass, people try anyway to keep it relevant. The dumbest fanbus. Its charged heavy attacks have multiple hits. Oh, you meant the skill. The skill is shit anyways. One-handed heavy attacks are what you wanna do. Let me guess, you got filtered by this guy? Do not post the rock child. I used Bloodhound Fang for the early game, haven't gotten White Mask, and still pull it out now and again when I feel like using a slightly heavier weapon. I looked at the UNGA numbers and they were big.